organizing committee and the members of the Kaash Foundation. Myself, Aisha Jabbar Mujawar, a team member of Kaash Foundation, and the host for the opening ceremony of the Model UNESCO Youth Summit 2020. I would like to begin with the words of Joseph Joubert, a French moralist and an essayist. And I quote, "Monuments are the grappling irons that bind one generation to another." So this year, the Heritage Week is being celebrated from 19th November 2020 to 25th November 2020 by Kaash Foundation's Center for Academic and Professional Development under its heritage vertical in collaboration with Archaeological Survey of India, Ministry of Culture, Government of India, Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, High Commission of India, Colombo, Sri Lanka, World Buddhist Mission, Japan, and Department of Archaeology and Ancient History, the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda. The inaugural session for the World Heritage Week 2020 was conducted on 19th November 2020. Was Sri Prahlad Singh Patel, Union Minister of State for Culture and Tourism, Government of India. The guest of honor and keynote speaker was Sri Aditya Thackeray, Honorable Minister of Tourism, Environment and Protocol, Government of Maharashtra, India. Kaash Foundation's CAPD was successful in organizing 8 international faculty development programs. The first international multidisciplinary conference that was conducted on the 17th and 18th of February 2020 and Transformation. Cities, Literature and Culture, Mumbai chapter. This event received a huge response with 155 delegates, 40 resource persons, and 125 research paper presenters attending this session. The keynote speaker of the inaugural event was Mr. R. Balakrishnan, popularly known as R. Balki. On May 12, 2020, we had a second international webinar on the theme Concerns, Complexities, and Dialogues in Religious Philosophy. We had 8 speakers, not only from India, but also from Afghanistan and Indonesia, who graced this event with their presence. The third international conference was conducted on 25th May 2020 and was titled Colossal and Collateral Challenges for Sustainable Environment. The keynote speaker was Dr. Ithamar Theodore. On 30th May 2020, the fourth international conference was titled Trajectories and Intersection in Writings of History and Literature. Dr. Devdutt Patnaik was the keynote speaker for this event. The fifth international conference that was conducted on 3rd June 2020 was titled Integrated Approaches of Research in Humanities and Social Sciences. Dr. Gauri Mahulkar, an international scholar, was the keynote speaker. On 8th June 2020, we organized the 6th International Conference on the topic Emerging Trends of Research in Arts, Aesthetics, and Social Sciences. Dr. Kylie Shield was the keynote speaker for this event. The 7th International Conference was organized on 12th June 2020. The theme for this conference was Strategy to Strengthen Industry, Academic Collaboration in the Emerging Economy. Mr. Makrant Patel, Mr. Amit Goenka, Mr. Paresh Seth, and Mr. Nachiket Naik were the speakers who graced this session with their presence. And finally, the 8th International Conference was organized on 21st August 2020 on the theme Startups in India, Current Scenario. Mr. Prasad Menon, Mr. Karunesh Prasad, Mr. Sanjay Fadkar, and Ms. Maitri Shah were the speakers of this event. In addition to these conferences, Kaash Foundation successfully organized 3 faculty development programs. The first faculty development program was titled Historians, compass, and tools. From 25th May 2020, 30th May 2020. The second faculty development program was conducted from 3rd August 2020 to 9th August 2020 on the theme Pedagogy of Teaching History. And the third faculty development program was conducted from 24th August to 29th August and was titled Emerging Approaches. It is rightly said by the 32nd Mr. Franklin D. Roosevelt. We cannot always build the future leaders for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. The role of the youths is very significant in the growth of a nation and also of the world. Today's youths are tomorrow's leaders, and most important attribute that youth should inculcate is the courage to voice their opinion. So, to enrich their skills and broaden their horizons, Kaash Foundation decided to host the Model UNESCO Youth Summit 2020. This Youth Summit is as per the lines of the Model United Nations to discuss and deliberate on our tangible and intangible cultural heritage. I conclude with the quote of Joseph Joubert. The aim of argument or of discussion should not be victory, but progress. Now, I invite the founder of Kaash Jadhav to please say a few words. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Aisha. Heritage is a very collective notion. It cannot be identified as a linear pattern. It cannot be looked upon as a very monolithic structure as such, because it is intertwined. It has its own allied branches. It has its own classification, and most importantly, they are all interconnected into various dots. There is heritage of cuisine, there is heritage of textile, there is heritage of communities, heritage of people, practices, rituals for that matter. Apart from just mere structures, heritage in fact is what we walk through every day in our life. And it is really important when we are looking at the globalized world today that we also retain our own original identity. And especially a country like India needs to look upon it with more precision and with more profoundness. Because this is a very formidable part of our life and our history as such. We cannot ignore it. We may overlook it, but we cannot ignore it as such. And that is the reason why we have chosen Heritage Week celebration, where we would like to encourage the youth to be involved, to participate, to deliberate. Our fourth day today, where we had week-long activities, on the fourth day, this entire day is dedicated to the youth, because the voice of the youth is always powerful. It can, if channelized properly, it can actually act as a catalyst. And today's deliberation will be sent to UNESCO. We have already received a mail from them where they have asked us whatever areas you discuss in the Model UNESCO Youth Summit, whatever resolutions or discussions you have on the table at the Youth Summit, kindly forward the details to us. The suggestion is also given to us by the Honorable Minister, Prahlad Singh Patel, who was our chief guest, and also by Shri Aditya Thackeray, Honorable Minister of Maharashtra Government. Even they are looking forward for the report of the deliberation of today. On behalf of Kaash Foundation, I welcome my own dear friend, Dr. Lily Want, Dean from University of Kashmir, and she has also been very actively involved in keeping the entire intellectual flow in the valley, and successfully she has managed to contribute in the field of academics as such. We also welcome today Dr. Rajendra Yadav, who is a superintending archaeologist from the Mumbai Circle, Archaeological Survey of India. And it was his support that we got the collaboration of Archaeological Survey of India for the 7 day event as such. So, on behalf of Kaash Foundation, I welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Lily Want, and Dr. Yadav for the day. All the best to all the participants and delegates from various countries. And I'm sure your entire dedicated discussion definitely will fetch us some areas to ponder upon, also prepare a good report which we can send forward to the concerned stakeholders who are also the policy makers as such. So I welcome you all once again. Over to you, Aisha.
Thank you, sir. I take this opportunity to introduce the keynote speaker for the Model UNESCO Youth Summit 2020, Dr. Lily Want. Dr. Lily Want is Professor of English Literature at the Department of English, University of Kashmir. Presently, she is the head of Department of English and Dean of School of Arts, Languages and Literatures, University of Kashmir. Earlier, she was Associate Professor at American University of Asia, Sharjah, UAE. Professor Wand has been teaching for the last 3 decades and has been rated as an excellent teacher by students in various surveys. She is the author of several books, mostly published by Cambridge University Press, and article papers that have appeared in national and international journals. She has organized a number of national and international seminars and workshops. She has also made numerous presentations at various seminars and workshops, both within and outside India. Her areas of interest are British poetry, post colonial literature, and literary theory. I welcome Dr. Lily Want, who will be speaking on cultural and sustainable development, perspectives, and prospects. Over to you, ma'am.
Dr. Avkash Yadav, Team Kaash Foundation, Dr. Rajendra Yadav, respected dignitaries, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Avkash Yadav and Team Kaash Foundation for giving me the privilege to speak at the inaugural function of Model UNESCO Youth Summit. It is indeed an honor to be a part of an exhilarating and I would also like to take this opportunity and congratulate Team Kaash Foundation for having come up with an academic venture that aims to encourage new collaborations, help change perspectives, prepare our youth for broad participation, as well as offer unique resources for activating concern and creative thinking about sustainable human development in these distraught times. The timing of this event could not have been more appropriate given the increasing relevance of cultural preservation per se, as well as through its linkages with sustainable development with the worlds of which the worlds of academia as well as practice are clamoring to substantiate and prove. The preservation of cultural heritage and identity gains significance for developing our understanding of cultural diversity that exists in the world around us. Needless to say, diversity has taken over, necessitating thereby the preservation and intergenerational transmission of cultural heritage. Culture, as it has been defined, and I quote, is an umbrella term which encompasses the social behavior and norms found in human societies as well as the knowledge, beliefs, arts, laws, customs, capabilities, and habits of individuals in these groups, unquote. But then we also know that culture is not a static set of values and practices. It is constantly recreated as people question, adapt, and redefine their values and practices when faced with changes and the interchange of ideas. At the same time, development as a concept as well as philosophy has undergone tremendous changes within the last century. Till date, no consensus exists with regard to this term. In the initial phases, it came to be associated with economic or econometric definitions, much to the exclusion of other facets of human life. Later on, when sustainability became the pivot of the debate of development, environmental and ecological conservation began to be taken seriously. Yet, through it all, the cultural heritage and its linkages to development, if they existed at all, were largely ignored. It was only reluctantly that the discourse on development accommodated culture when authors like John Hawkes called culture the fourth pillar of sustainability. But then, this view failed to find support in public policies and the political sphere in general. The relationship between culture and development started to be defended by different experts in the 1970s. And it was not until the 1980s or even the 1990s when the international bodies and development cooperation agencies started to promote studies and work to analyze how cultural factors could have an impact on development processes. The rising significance of culture is primarily on two accounts. First, the growth in cultural goods and services and intellectual property, and second, the threats posed by world trade and contemporary globalization to cultural diversities and identities, as evidenced in hybridity and diaspora, terms that characterize the contemporary world. Edward Said, Homi K. Baba, and Gayatri Spivak agree in assigning a privileged role to the intellectual's position as exile. For example, Baba does not think that cultures are pure and holistic. Traditional knowledge, he believes, is not dismissed, but given new and unexpected meanings, leading to what he terms as destaging the past. This, he tells us, has two consequences. A, subject is produced from hybridization, and his subjectivity is composed from various sources, different materials, and many locations. Hence, it is unstable, unpredictable, and open to change. B, subjectivity is always incommensurable. Baba recognizes the porous borders between cultures. They're always, he tells us, leaking into each other, crisscrossing supposed barriers. Paul Gilroy, too, discusses the intellectual and political cross-fertilization that resulted from Black diaspora to Europe and America. This movement created a Black Atlantic, which he defines as an intellectual and transformational formation, which then provides a means to re-examine the problem of nationality, locality, and identity. Gilroy tells us that a culture is not specifically African, American, Caribbean, or British, but all of these at once. It is a Black Atlantic culture whose themes and techniques transcend ethnicity and nationality to produce something new. Similarly, diaspora is a term often used to describe practically any population which is considered not only deterritorialized but transnational. That is, a population that has originated in a land other than that which it currently resides and whose social, economic, and political networks cross the borders of nation states. The act of migration is one that profoundly changes the individual, transforming the relationship of the migrant with both his/her home country and new host country and impacting his/her identity massively as a result. This new diasporic identity, although it is thought of negatively by many, is nonetheless viewed as potentially a position of strength. Therefore, diasporic identities like globalization are constantly producing and reproducing themselves anew through transformation and difference. According to Stuart Hall, and I quote, The diasporic experience is defined not only by essence or purity, but by the recognition of a necessary heterogeneity and diversity. The diasporic identity lives with and by hybridity, unquote. In its transformational quality, therefore, diaspora is typically a site of hybridity which questions fixed identities based on essentialism. Identity is no longer seen as fixed, but it becomes a dynamic construction that adjusts continually to the changes experienced within and surrounding the self. In addition to hybridity and diaspora, the traditional view of mass culture as degraded and elite culture as uplifting has come to be witnessed as a political distinction rather than an aesthetic or intellectual one. This has led to a scholarly interest in popular culture as an alternative to destabilize and interrogate established codes. And in other words, we witness a combined scholarly interpretation of cultural artifacts like film, popular music, with the systematic social conditions in which such artifacts are produced and transmitted to address the pertinent question whether popular culture can actually resist the dominant ideology governed by the best that has been said and thought in the world and pave way for new cultural identities. In addition to this polarization into elite versus mass culture, one cannot ignore other cultural hierarchies, in particular the one between Western and non-Western cultures. Western cultures are generally regarded rational and superior, whereas folk cultures are regarded outdated and retrogressive. With industrialization, urbanization, and globalization, the traditional ways of life are seen disappearing rapidly alongside rituals, customs, and other kinds of intangible cultural expressions that govern and determine this way of life. Long after the so-called decolonization, has a much more insidious form of colonization and control that has left people with words which do not express their ideas, a displacement from the country or cultural group to which they belong, and a past they feel disconnected with. Viewed as an impediment to progress and development, folk culture has been regarded as inferior, and its gradual decimation, therefore, comes across as an inevitable. The importance of intangible cultural heritage in defining the cultural identity of a people, of group, or community cannot be overemphasized. The conventional policies to support arts and heritage have marginalized the broader concept of culture as intangible heritage, languages, and custom, amongst others, are not considered as elements to be promoted and protected by public policies. Since all efforts are directed to the preservation of buildings and other fixed and visible constructions of earlier eras for their outstanding artistry, therefore, cultural heritage gets largely associated with and limited to the preservation of the relatively static and tangible cultural heritage rather than the preservation of protean and intangible cultural heritage. Notwithstanding the adoption of the Convention for Intangible Cultural Heritage in 2003, it still awaits approval by several participating countries. In fact, many nations do not have an intangible heritage. In fact, the concept of intangible cultural heritage may be unfamiliar to some cultural policy professionals. There is no concept in the world that has invited as much debate, discussion, and scrutiny as the idea of sustainable development. Conventionally, most experts adhere to the definition given by Brundtland Report, and I quote, "Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs," unquote. Scholars are seen to refer to the prudent statement given by Mahatma Gandhi, who presciently observed that the earth produces enough for everyone's need, but not everyone's greed. This tug of war between needs and desires has led to intergenerational conflict of interests between the resource abuse of the present generation carried out in the name of prosperity and development and the genuine requirements and capabilities of those who will inhabit the earth in the future. Given this scenario, sustainable development suggests limiting or constraining the development process, and most often this limiting factor has been interpreted to be ecological and environmental in nature. However, Given that humankind does not exist in a social and economic vacuum, therefore, environment as a cornerstone of development must be tied in with social and economic dimensions of development. This leads to a multidimensional construct of sustainable development comprising of economic feasibility, responsibility towards the environment, and social sustainability. As far as economic feasibility is concerned, within the overarching discourse on sustainable development, it simply connotes preventing misuse of resources which hinders the regenerative ability and ensures that progress and development need to be made at the cost of intergenerational equity. However, our area of concern today is the preservation of cultural diversity under the umbrella term of social sustainability. Social sustainability stands for the maintenance of political, social, and community values, norms, behaviors that are largely intangible in nature but have an indelible influence on social relations. They may include ethics, value systems, language, and hierarchies within society. While the economic and ecological dimensions of sustainable development deal with the quantity or abundance of resources at the disposal of mankind, this aspect of social sustainability refers to the quality of living. As a result, with the evolution of the concept of sustainable development, culture is increasingly being viewed as its fourth pillar, not only to be integrated into what sustainable development denotes presently, but also as a means of questioning its very etymology. This is because culture shapes the very manner in which people view the world and, based on that understanding, act in it. Therefore, the term has both ontological and epistemological undertones. The idea of culture, when it comes to sustainable development, is not homogeneous. As Raymond Williams argues, and I quote, culture is one of the two or three most complicated words in the English language, unquote. While commenting about development, Raymond Williams states, I quote, what is often the unexamined idea of development can limit and confuse virtually any generalizing description of the current world economic order. And it is an analysis of the real practices subsumed by development that more specific recognitions are necessary and possible, unquote. Even if a consensus were to be reached with regard to what culture within the framework of sustainable development connotes, not all cultures would be equal in the debate on sustainable development. If cultures were to be plotted on a continuum, Western science would occupy one end as dominating the sustainable development discourse, while on the other hand, traditional and localized, or as the imbalance in the culture arena suggests, non-Western knowledge would be seen pushed to the periphery, described as regressive or glorified as secret wisdom. Therefore, if culture is to become the fourth pillar of sustainable development, cultural pluralism must address the geocultural imbalance. Global sustainability, in other words, is achieved only through the methodology of integration uniquely fitted to the culture and civilization of each locality. Respect for cultural diversity must be the base for the establishment of global sustainability, or diverse cultures need to develop in harmony based on deep mutual understanding and respect. The Western idea of development largely centers around capital driven growth, leading to dire consequences for humankind in general. Tariq Banouri pertinently remarks in this context, and I quote, what it, that is the Western idea of development, provides for a tremendous increase in the ability to control nature, it is also the cause of a myriad of problems, including loss of meaning in people's lives, increase in alienation and anxiety, creeping disenfranchisement, and unprecedented rationalization of violence and destruction of the environment, unquote. The fillip for culture as the fourth pillar of sustainable development has put a spotlight on developing countries, cities, and smaller communes that not only form grassroots but also remain the most affected by development that is unsustainable and abusive. In this regard, culture becomes part of the debate in two ways. First, through the development of cultural sector itself, like heritage, arts, cultural industries, crafts, intangible culture, and secondly, through linkages between culture and public policies like education, economy, science, urban planning, communication environment, social cohesion, and international cooperation. Finally, I would like to conclude with what the Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Cultural Diversity of Cultural Expressions highlights in its two articles with regard to the relation between culture and sustainable development. The first article is titled Principle of Sustainable Development, and I quote, the protection, promotion, and maintenance of cultural diversity are an essential requirement for sustainable development for the present and future generations, unquote. The title of the second article reads Integration of Culture in Sustainable Development, and I quote, Parties shall endeavor to integrate culture in the development policies at all levels for the creation of conditions conducive to sustainable development, and within this framework, foster aspects relating to the protection and promotion of the diversity of cultural expressions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lily Wang. The talk was extremely insightful. I would now like to introduce the special guest for the Model UNESCO Youth Summit 2020, Dr. Rajendra Yadav. Dr. Rajendra Yadav is currently the Superintending Archaeologist, Archaeological Survey of India, Mumbai Circle, Maharashtra. Prior to this, he has served in various regional offices of the Archaeological Survey of India, Directorate Office of Delhi, Shimla, Lucknow, Jaipur, and Bhopal. Dr. Yadav has always actively participated in more than 15 excavations and research projects of the Archaeological Survey of India. He has he has published nearly 30 research articles to his credit on art, architecture, and Buddhism. We at Kaash Foundation are very grateful to Dr. Rajendra Yadav for encouraging us in organizing the World Heritage Week, and we always wish that we receive the constant support of the Archaeological Survey of India in all our future endeavors. Sir, we are very honored to have you here as our special guest, and I take this opportunity to invite you to encourage our participants of the Youth Summit. With this introduction, I welcome Dr. Rajendra Yadav, who will be speaking on relevance of heritage in India. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Kaash Yadav ji, Professor Lily ma'am, and distinguished scholars. It is my privilege to be here as a co-partner of this World Heritage Week celebration. And I must welcome to all dignitaries, participants, and speakers. And I'm very happy to share a few slides and my views of what is the relevance of heritage, particularly on this occasion. Because I must congratulate, first of all, going to my topic. First of all, I congratulate Dr. Kaash Yadav ji, because who's offer me to collaborate with Kaash Foundation to celebrate the World Heritage Week. So really, it was a good experience because whatever infrastructure or whatever galaxy of scholars he invited to join on this common platform during this pandemic period, it is a Herculean task, especially for me also, because he's in touch with the scholars, various universities, but ASI have greatly more focused on the preservation and protection of the especially cultural properties of across the country, because a lot of administrative pressure we have, so we could not spare much time on the, especially on focus to collaborate with the other agencies and make it collaborative projects, especially some of the our branches, expert branches of the ASI, like excavation branches, they are doing some collaborations. but usually circles are organizing cultural awareness program during this World Heritage Week celebrations. But we are not going for the large projects or large collaborations. But I am very happy and I'm feeling blessed with the listening of these greatest scholars and from diverse nature, the diverse expertise. So really, it is the credit goes to Kaash Foundation and Dr. Jadhav is the a person and his team. They have nicely arranged all sort of things, all affairs. So now it is the fourth day of the session, and after the delivery of lecture, Professor Lily won. I think she has very nicely described the sustainable development and culture. So my point is that what is the relevance? I've given some two or three basic points and insight how the relevance, because most of the things are covered in the previous lecture, but I will share my views in personally in interpreting the culture. Culture is is a very universal subject, is a huge like umbrella kind of thing. Below culture, each and every human behavior, human past and present, everything was covered under the one umbrella. And because food habit, is the customs and is the artifacts, everything was comes under the culture or heritage. There's something, if you layman language, we can say the something inherited from the past. In archaeology, we oftenly connect with the connect the present society with our ancestral legacy. Whatever we have just carried out from our ancestors, like we are going to excavation collecting the material culture of our ancestors, and we are just describing and writing on it, and the historians are explaining and interpreting more about this material culture what we are collecting from the various excavations. So culture or heritage is a very vast subject. Entire thing or entire human life, ecology, society, and behavior, everything was comes under the cultural heritage. So this is a very holistic word, and not only a simple two words of English terms like cultural heritage. So like UNESCO and ICOMOS, they have given a lot of definition, have explained my previous learned scholar. So like how the cultural heritage was identified by the UNESCO. The UNESCO is explaining is an expression of ways of living development by a community and passed on the generation to generation. That is a more important part, and that is the relevance of the our cultural heritage. It was passed from generation to generation, including custom, practice, places, objects, artistic expression, and values. The values, the most important part is our values. Values are because it goes in long way, because a lot of things are passing one generation to another. Since from thousands of years, it is passing to the next generation. And still, most of the tradition never dies. They are continuing and passing to next generation by my mother passed to the his children or her children. Cultural heritage is often expressed in either tangible. Cultural heritage is oftenly divided in two broad categories: the tangible and intangible. Tangible, which is visible, and intangible, in general terms, we can say which is not visible. We can realize, we can feel it. That is called intangible heritage. But if you see the philosophical terms, what is the heritage? Heritage encompasses a broad and in overarching term. It is a something that someone or a collective considers to be the worthy of being valued, preserved, catalogued, exhibited, restored, admired. This is a Carcel and Luke. They have given this kind of definition in 2000 supported. It was what is the philosophical expression of culture? Culture is a collective considerations. So we see the cultural heritage, the tangible, what is the material culture? Whatever we are seeing physically in physical form, that is like painting, sculptures, coins, manuscripts, buildings, monuments, archaeological sites, and some other part of things some underwater culture heritage. Underwater, we ASI have one underwater being, and we were just working in the coastal belt what the shipbreakers are in, and the old Dwarka city was explored by our senior or very old archaeologist Professor S.R. Rao, and later on carried out by the Professor Alok Tripathi, and now it was almost this branch was also almost stopped by because in absence of any scholar. So this what the ASI is doing, or what is the across the country, we are focusing on the more on the built heritage, or that is a part of cultural heritage. Intention, I have already said, performing arts, rituals, and witchcraft, etc. It comes on like under the intangible heritage. And the third one is the ecology and nature. Natural site heritage is also very important because habitat is a individual is living in the in certain habitat. Then habitat is playing a vital role in the human development and in the races development. So each and every region, and they have own set of own natural heritage. So that's why the government of India or UNESCO is giving the more emphasis to protecting the natural heritage also. So India has also some so many natural sites. So if you see the in the perspective or if you see the overview of the Indian cultural heritage, so we have total 38 cultural heritage which were in listed by the UNESCO, that is called as the World Heritage Sites. Remaining sites are also having the value. They are very important for our society, but they are considered to the B grade monuments. But if they have the local emphasis or local importance, but it doesn't mean that they don't have some. They are less important. But each and every cultural property have its own importance, and it passes the some masses to the society. It gives the same functions, the same like the World Heritage Sites. But World Heritage Sites were defined as a we just classify the outstanding OUV, outstanding universal values, because some of the properties are outstanding and this is something different from others, and having the preserving the there's some most outstanding things which is equally important for the entire world. So that is called the World Heritage Sites. So the universal value is very important. Usually each and every World Heritage Sites was well defined. At least three outstanding universal values must be fulfill their criteria. So government and Archaeological Survey of India is a nodal agency for preparing the nomination and dossiers about the for the protection of these sites declared as a World Heritage title. So the being the nodal agency of Government of India, so ASI is working with the all collaborative with the other governments and states. Like in Mumbai, we have three properties. Which are like Elephanta is one of the property which is which is having with the ASI, and Great Victoria Terminal, BT Terminal, and the Art Deco buildings. These are the properties are declared as a World Heritage Sites, have a great relevance because this gives us masses. This is a period architecture, but giving outstanding under the development of the architectural landscape of the Mumbai or particular Western Ghat. It is not only architectural landmark, but it gives a lot of masses behind it. So that's why these are it fulfills the three criteria out of outstanding universal values. Similarly, we have the 8 natural sites in that is a waterways, landscape, woodlands, and these are all 8 natural sites of India. And one is a mixed sites under this category. And apart from these 38 sites, we have 43 tentative lists. Before going to the final notification as a title of World Heritage Sites, there is a process, long process. We are the ASI is doing. So we have 43 properties were identified and enlisted as a tentative list of World Heritage Sites. So the last year, the 3 properties were nominated by the Government of India, ASI, and the one is we can mention is the Dholavira is one of the tentative sites, and another the Mandu was nominated, and for this getting this title. So overall, in India, we have this kind of properties which are world famous. And what is the importance and relevance? Because tangible, we connect only not only the passing the information one generation to other generation, but what is the relevance? In morning, I was talking with Professor Jadhav regarding some one issue, because and that is I'm giving to quote as one example of Dholavira. how this, you see on a screen, how this meticulously planned city, urban city, is a third millennia BC. But now, what is the condition of modern societies? Modern present day, several cities are growing unlike anything, but it's a very haphazard manner. You see, our ancestors have left the legacy. We have beautiful legacy of our development. How they have planned this square chessboard pattern of city layout. Each and everything was well planned during the third millennia BC. This is a Dholavira located in the Kutch Khadirvet. I was one of the excavator of that site under the direction of Dr. R.S. Bis, Padma Shri awardee. So when we were working as a student on this site, so we found that modern town planners are not taking care of while they are just planning the cities. But if you see this Dholavira city, they have taken care of each and every aspect for the sustainable development, because water was the main crisis, main problem for this area, and it was a very valuable and priceless. It was developed as a like a water fort. So all the surrounding area, low lying area, was developed as a water reservoirs. You see, do pictures are in below. There is a pictures because this reservoirs I have excavated during 94, 95, and 96, and this was the eastern reservoirs. These two reservoirs and larger in this area, and the remaining area was also developed as a reservoir with the help of the earthen bricks. So my point is this: to want to instigate to the listeners and to tell the people how our ancestors have make us such a beautiful futuristic city in the olden days, the 5,000 years before present. Now we are in the modern society in 21st century. We are not taking care of while the planning the cities. So the what is the relevance of our culture or heritage? We have to learn. We have to take this example and from our ancestors or the past knowledge. But we are not passing to one generation to another generation. Indeed, it is passing, but there is something missing. The linkages are missing. We are not considering these acumen which was developed by our ancestors. So that my point is this: कि Dhaulabira was the self-sustainable city. It was lying very close to the run of Kutch. It is an island, Khadirvet. So each and everything, there was a trade, there was a commerce, there was a good water harvesting system. They have the perennial source of water. How they have made the perennial source? This is a dry patch, but they have developed some perennial source of water with the collecting, whether conserving this water through in all tanks. So this is one of the lovely example of the culture learning and how we can learn from our heritage or our cultural heritage. I've just like to this small examples how the cultural traditions prevailing across the boundary, across the region. I'm just giving this small baby bottle that example. Right from you see this terracotta model of feeding bottle was recovered from the excavation of Kalibanga. This is another Harappan site which was located very close to Ganganagar, or you can say Hanumangarh, and it is very 100 kilometers from the Pakistan border. But it is a great Harappan site. When you are excavating, we have collected a lot of things. Apart from the given some small feeding bottle, this tradition was continuing for about 5,000 years, and still it is continued. But the shape was changed slightly. But if you go in the rural section, rural area of the India, you may see this kind of feeding bottle in the eastern part of the India, especially Bengal and some other part of Assam also, because they have developed this feeding bottle, and your young kid will enjoy to see this feeding bottle, because just like an animal, a small animal, milk was fed and you were just put in close to their mouth, they suck milk and see busy in seeing this model, especially which is looks like here also you see there is a small ram like face was attached with the on the front of his spout. So this type of traditions, we are saying tradition will never dies. From one generation to another generation, it is passing from. And when we just come to the another example, how the second several literature like Rig with the Vedic literature and post Vedic literature in Aryana Puranas and Smriti and Mahabharata and Ramayana, these two great epics, they are giving a lot of information, lot of narratives. But what is the material culture? It was not seen. But if you see the right from the Ashokan period, uh, we have the plenty of material culture to learn their past life and culture and society. So I have given one small example to how the learning was changed, how the we can learn from our cultural tangible heritage or cultural properties. I'm going to quote this beautiful stupa dated to second, third century BCE because it is an old stupa built by Ashoka, but later on it was veneered during the Satavahana period or Kushana period. It is a contemporary to both are contemporary. So during Satavahana or Sunga period, this stone torana was erected. But if you see meticulously, one torana or all four toranas, there is a lot of depictions, lot of Jataka stories are depicted. But if you closely associated or study these depictions, so you learn a lot of things, lot of informations are preserved, and in this in a small piece of heritage, in a small piece of building, because this is the living testimony of to us, which can be explained nicely to our young coming generation or young generation. You see this beautiful cityscape, the entire cityscape was depicted in perspective. You see the one Ralph person is moving with the chariot, and there was some terraced house, and one these elephant riders and horse riders are moving. There is a procession with king is passing, coming going out from the Israel palace, and this is the fortification wall, and these are the multi-tiered storied or houses. So we can imagine, because we don't have any such beautiful houses. After Harappans there is a dark age with we don't have the much evidences of big houses or big plan, like cities are there, everything was there, but we don't have material culture enough. But this depiction of bas reliefs giving a lot of information about the past or the second or first century BC, the lifestyle of the people, cityscape, uh, their aesthetics, their the professions, then and form of social and religious perspective. Because here the people was worshipped by the group of devotee. But so I want to say, if we are we are reading in the books, but if you go for the material culture, these monuments are giving enormous informations of not only the social, religious, and society, religious aspect of the society, but also gives the science and technology. What is that technology? How they have meticulously designed and developed their time. And the another example I have taken the Jagdambi temple or a Khajuraho group of temples. This is not a merely as a temple of as one edifies, but if you closely study these temples of Khajuraho or any temple, Bradeshwar temple of Tanjavur, how engineering skill was evolved during the medieval period. Our Vastukar or architects, they're amazing people, and they have the power excellence. They have attained this. They have executed this most complicated designs. Because if someone have visited these temples, you can imagine how much quantum of stone was used to build this temple, and each and every part of the temple was meticulously decorated with a lot of scenes, religious scenes, social and social life of the olden age. It was depicted and narrated on the their walls, outer walls, and ceilings. So that this complex design was the architects have designed, Vastukars have designed, and finally the Silpis have figured out, or they have carved in the stones, and finally this temple has have come up in the full-fledged form. So this kind of technological development, we don't have the much cranes and all. These are our peculiarities, our specialties. We were the expert in olden days, and we have the make the at par. We achieve the perfection in our work. This legacy is our main achievement of the tech, and this tangible heritage gives the enormous information, and this is to our society, and passing this knowledge to the, and it is a subject of research. Hundreds of institutions are teaching the temple architecture and temple how it was developed. But now the modern architects, we are not working on this much. Only the some tradition make these temples, rather than not a CPWD engineer cannot do and cannot make us such beautiful temple. Only the traditional architects, those are working on it, especially on temple architecture. It is a very complex design. So this is a kind of observation. So go for intangible heritage, dance, music, traditions. These all are part of intangible heritage, as I have already told, which is not a seen, but we can realize, we can listen our music and music, and these are the things uh, which is developed over period of time and passing one generation to other generation. But there is a very big thing. In modern days, these all old traditions, intangible heritage is very gradually dying. We see the example of yoga. It was again revived, and because it was very much acknowledged by the UNESCO, and yoga day was 18th May was declared as a yoga day, international yoga day. So now the presence of yoga again acknowledged by the world community and declared as a yoga day. So this kind of knowledge, traditional knowledge, is very useful for the 21st century. Also quote a one mantras, because how the intangible heritage is important in slokas and mantras. And during the marriage profession or marriage ceremony, usually I think all Indians are knowing about when the priest was sitting in front of fire, and the bride and groom were sitting. The when he start to chanting, then he give the one in citation, that is the Bharat Varse Jambu Deve Arya Varte Amuk Amuk Namna Amuk Amuk Pradese, and Swan Amuk Amuk Namna. He was mentioning the name. He is telling the introduction of your bride and groom. Those are sitting and for marriage. So this priest was giving the introduction and asking to, hey God, you just protect them and make this his life successful. Then how he is introducing this couple with the chanting of Bharat Varshe Jambu Deepe Arya Varte She Amuk Amuk Basti, Amuk Amuk Namna, was a son of so and so, grandson of so and so, and I am a so and so. I am offering this, paying this offering to the fire. So this kind of introduction is our legacy. It was passing one generation to another generation. But I think in the modern society, after some time, we may lost this kind of chanting when our introduction was given. So this kind of traditions are gradually losing the hold on society. But on the other hand, some of the institutions are working, and we have to work to preserve our intangible heritage also. Like so many institutions are working to document and our dance and music, and so many old dances were, I think, now they have become waved off, because these are not popular among the public. So I would like here to one or two examples, like a time in that of country, like a Pabuji ki Fad. What is the Pabuji ki Fad? Fad painting is a little popular in Rajasthan. It is a one large canvas painting was made on over the cloth, and it was hanged with the help of two bamboo or three sticks. And they were the people group of people, like those are known as bhopas. These bhopas were reciting or performing this epic poem, and there was a 4,000 verses in this poem. So entire Bhopa community, that either they are moving in group the one or two ladies with the one or two musicians, and usually it was performed in the night. So these Rabadi community have great belief in the this kind of Babuji worship. So Babuji was the great hero who it is believed that he's the protector of our animals or cattle. So these bhopas were performing in the night, and usually 4 to 5 nights they have performed and recite the 4,000 verses. The ladies are usually dancing, and bhopas, these male parts of the male counterparts, they are musician, they are playing and singing.
Excuse me,
So
sir.
this yeah. Yeah.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. Sir,
Yeah.
can we have your concluding remarks? So
Yes,
that,
yes, but only two slides are there. So
Sure,
these
sir.
are the, yeah, this is a very dying traditions we have to preserve, and some of the institutions like in Rajasthan area when I was in the government, it was very well documented by the Jawahar Kala Kendra. So these are the example of intangible heritage. I must like to enjoy this beautiful depiction of Ganas, Shaiva Ganas. This tradition I have connected this long traditions of the Gupta period. During Gupta period, there is a lot of ganas were depicted in temple art. These ganas are an old tradition. It was very well narrated in Vayu Puran, Mahabharata, Shalpar is describing the Shiva ganas, and some Kumar Sambhav is also giving some narratives about how the gana was shot up with the army of Shiva and Kartikeya. But I would the Hughes Valley ganas were painted with the lion face. This tradition was still continue in some form of Pulikali dance of Kerala. And these ganas were having sometimes making caricature of various faces like tortoise and jackal and some of the crows. These are faces. But question is this: how the tradition was continued from the, if you see the Gupta period ganas and present day Pulikali dance, they people are making the, you see, you compare this and this person also having some painted a lion face over tummy and making some bell and dancing with the just shaking their waist, and this was a dance was very famous. And it was performed in the Trishur around the Shiva temple. So I mean to say these are the traditions continued from one generation to another generation and percolated from one place to another place. So relevance of the society, which ma'am have already discussed on the relevance and some other part of the sustainability of the history of traditions. It is asset of community in various forms, various ways, as I have discussed. It helps to shape up the better future for the past knowledge and for the shaping of the better future. Economic value. Our cultural heritage have economic value. Through the cultural heritage, we have to learn, we have to develop our society or give the economic boost or the society with the system, with the proper development and social values. These cultural heritage, the tangible, intangible heritage, have maintained our social values, and which is a main identity of our society, of any society, and sustained development is a part of one of the things. And thank you very much. And heritage is like a mirror of the past glory. This mirror was reported from Dhaulavira excavation. It is a copper mirror. So I'm just talking heritage is like a mirror of the past glory. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful message regarding the relevance of health. I would take this opportunity to thank all the respected guests, executive board, delegates for making the opening ceremony of the UNESCO Youth Summit 2020 memorable with your presence. As the words of Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese teen Buddhist monk, and I quote, "The most precious gift we can offer others is our presence." Now, to open the Model UNESCO Youth Summit, call upon the founder trustee of Kaash Foundation and Foundation Director of Center for Academic and Professional Development, Dr. Avkash Shadav, to kindly Model UNESCO Youth Summit open. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Dr. Lily, for being our keynote speaker. And thank you, Dr. Rajendra Yadav, for being our special guest. Now, with the powers bestowed in me, I declare the Model UNESCO Youth Summit 2020 open. Over to you, Aisha.
Hereby we declare the meet open. We will meet again for the valedictory function. Here, Ms. Aisha Mujawar signing off from the fourth day of Heritage Week celebrations. Once again, thank you everyone. We request all the delegates to stay in the room. The technical team will be guiding you all to the breakout rooms. Thank you very much.